Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. I have been asked a few times to talk about how did ASP start? Like where did ASP come from? How the heck did we get here? Well, I will tell you, it's never what I have ever expected to do. And today I have brought ASP CEO Stephannie on board to talk with us some because her part of this story is as important as mine. Steph, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. It's such a odd story. People ask us kind of all the time, where are you from? Well, I'm from the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. John's from Phoenix, isn't he? How did this even work? Did you guys know each other ahead of time? And yeah, it's an interesting story. Sometimes I just end up saying, I think it's just what Jesus wanted because nothing else really makes sense. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. When people ask me all the time, they'll ask, and I can answer this as part of the questions, well, John, why did you leave vocational ministry? Well, the short answer is Jesus said so. So I did. But let's talk about where ASP came from, how we got where we are, because it's an interesting story and maybe you want to hear it.
BakerTargets.com is where I get the targets you see me shoot all the time on Active Self-Protection Extra. They ship fast, their prices are great, and they have all kinds of targets, both for competitive shooting, defensive shooting, and fun too. Check them out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. When people ask me all the time, they'll ask, and I can answer this as part of the questions, well, John, why did you leave vocational ministry? Well, the short answer is Jesus said so. So I did. But let's talk about where ASP came from, how we got where we are, because it's an interesting story and maybe you want to hear it. All right, I'm going to tell the first part of the story because the first part of the story is kind of me, and then I'm going to invite Stephannie to tell a lot of the second part of the story because it involves her and a lot of her family. In fact, a whole bunch, right? So I founded Active Self Protection in 2011 as John Correa pistol instruction because I'd gotten into self defense, started carrying a firearm, was taking martial arts training, and training with a gun costs money, right? And if you've taken any training classes, you go to the range regularly, this stuff costs money. My core competency is teaching. So my first big boy job in the real world was in the United States Navy as a nuclear reactor operator. And then when I got out, I went to graduate school and I was a pastor in the Valley for 14 years, as well as a part-time professor at a college and at the seminary that I graduated from. And so education is my core. That's my core competency is teaching. So I said, heck, man, if I can start teaching some classes, I can at least write off my own training and write off my own ammo. So I started teaching classes. Incorporated ASP in 2013. So before that, it was just, sole proprietorship, just my own kind of thing. And then starting in 2013, we actually got, the LLC docs filed in the state of Arizona and got an EIN and all that stuff. And so I started teaching some classes, and then I was pastoring a church. I was pastoring a church in Glendale, Arizona. You really can't find it anymore because the church is closed since then. It's called West Greenway Baptist Church. When I took it over in '07, we became West Greenway Bible Church. We stayed in the Southern Baptist Convention, but we dropped the word Baptist from our name, I think, in '09. And so when I started posting some gun content on my Facebook and talking about my pistol classes, some of the ladies at church were not too keen on that. That caused me a little bit of grief, which I get it. Okay. Especially we had a family at the church. We're good people, really good people. And they had a child that had died by murder. Somebody murdered their daughter with a gun. And so that was really hard for them. So I started a Facebook page for the company and just specifically to get gun content off my personal Facebook and said, hey, if you want that stuff, go follow me over there. Because Facebook had just started allowing pages. This was like, I don't know, 2012, something like that. And then 2013, it had grown like it had started growing. I had started making like high quality memes, not like crappy memes, but like teaching little self-defense lessons about being a good person and only using deadly force if you need to, and those things and posting those, and people were sharing them around, and that was big on Facebook at the time. And Steph, that's how you found Active Self-Protection was via the Facebook page.
Right. I was at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had five little kids, 10 and under. I was also a foster parent at the time. I talked about this on the podcast in a little more depth, but basically we were facing kind of a pretty credible threat to my family's safety at the time. And I realized that I didn't really have any way, I had all these little lives that were dependent on me. And while I was willing to die for them, that really didn't change the situation if someone was coming uh to take one of the foster babies, which did actually happen. They there was a threat. They showed up in my driveway. It ends up very anticlimactic. They end up just leaving. But it took 25 minutes for the police to get to my rural home when I called to report that someone was coming to kidnap the baby. And I do remember calling my husband Neil at work because he actually worked about 2 miles from our house. And I told him they're coming to take the baby. And we had a plan at the time because who's now my son, his biological family did actually really love him, but they just wanted him back. And I didn't really think they'd hurt him. So our plan was always give them the baby and then we'll let the police bring the baby back rather than putting everyone at risk. But what I said was, they take this baby today over my dead body, is what the words that came out. And my husband said, yes, I agree. That is the plan. And hung up the phone and rushed home. And that was really all I had, was the willingness to die and not actually protect this baby. And so I started searching. When money was tight, we were, single income, lots of kids, time was tight. There was no way I could go to classes. So I just started looking online for whatever I could find. I was reading all kinds of articles about Masad Ayub and all those things, found the Facebook page and just started following. At that point, by the time I came along to follow the page, you were posting videos, and maybe you'll want to tell how you started posting videos, but they weren't videos like they are now. It was the video that you would play, and then you would type out a list of lessons that we could learn from the video. And so I was just, and in addition to that, we've always on the Facebook page shared articles from all kinds of people. So I was just absorbing everything that I could, even, reading all the comments, because I could often learn from thoughtful people in the comments as well. And I really felt like I was getting a lot from the page. So it had grown enough at that time. You had posted about maybe needing some volunteers to help moderating comments. And so I contacted you and just told you that I knew nothing, basically, except what I was learning, but that I really wanted a way to pay it forward and to help this community that had helped me so much. And so we found things that I could do that didn't get me outside of my lane, and mostly just kind of reading and deleting comments where people were rude or profane or whatever else we didn't really want on the Facebook page, and kind of started from there. Then you started doing different kinds of videos, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's a really funny part of the story. So, today Stephannie is the CEO of the company. She started off again. The page had grown to about 50,000. I'm in full-time vocational pastoral ministry. I'm teaching part-time, but like 3/4 partial time, right? Like I'm teaching a bunch, trying to make this content on the side. And really, I'm doing content on the side, like putting some of those videos up and just typing comments as part of my own training. Like I was like a green belt in Kempo at the time, and like taking a few firearms classes here and there, trying to teach a class every once in a while, and just trying to get people into class. So there wasn't any money, like literally no dollars in it whatsoever. And we got to like 50,000, likes on the Facebook page, and it was just too much work to moderate all of it. And so I threw out a call. Stephannie was one who responded to that call. And we had a few others as well who have kind of come and gone. Those folks have kind of hung around. Those some have hung around. My friend Phil Wong. Phil was one of those original kind of Mod Squad guys. And Robbie Bussard, I think, was one of those original Mod Squad folks too. Soleil Roche in there. Well, so I met Soleil actually because she was running another gun page, actually. So, and Stephannie, though, just showed up and said, I'll help, and did it. Like, and I didn't have to supervise her. Like, I just said, here's kind of some of the things I need done. And she's like, I'm on it, fam, and just went and got it done. Yeah. And let me tell you, anybody who's ever, as somebody who's managed people for forever, and there was no money in this, right? This was all volunteer. Having somebody you don't got to manage, and yet who brings value to the table was so valuable. So then we started making the videos. Yeah, I mean, I started posting the videos because Facebook allowed videos. And then somebody sent me a video of a baby mama getting attacked by her baby daddy and like murdering her on camera. Holy crap. Took that to my martial arts teacher, and I was like, on my BlackBerry Storm. That'll tell you when this was. And like, I don't know how to defend myself against this attack. And he's like, hey, let's try it in class and let's just workshop it. That went well. So I posted that video with some thoughts in the comments about here's how to defend. Those went well for a while. Well, then eventually somebody sent me a video that was way too long. and so it only had like 30 seconds of action. So I had to figure out, I had Adobe Premiere on my laptop, but I didn't know how to use it. So I went to YouTube, basic Adobe Premiere tutorial, watched one, and as part of that, it said, "Oh, if you want to record voiceover, here's how you record voiceover." And I was like, "Oh, well, that'd be cool." So then instead of typing it in the comments, I'll just say it. And maybe if I add some like arrows and stuff, I could be like the John Madden of on-camera violence. And those went over well. Like the first couple of those, I think the first one we posted sometime, I think it was October of 2014. And I forget exactly which day in October. So it's been over 10 years now, and almost, gosh, we're getting close to 11 years. And those were a hit. So we had an audience on Facebook. That's where our main audience was. And so that's where we were posting videos. And then we would occasionally like do a t-shirt run, like we did like specialty t-shirts. And that made us a couple bucks. And I try to share around when we got a few dollars, those things. And like, here's like Christmas gifts for everybody. And then YouTube in 2016, April of 2016, sent me an email that was like, "Hey, you can monetize your channel if you want." Now, I had made a YouTube channel, and if you go back, like I dare you, on the big YouTube channel, if you dig all the way to the bottom, there's over 4,000 videos on the main channel now. And if you dig all the way to the bottom, you will find a video of me on the range. Is my very first video on the channel.
Yep.
And it's a video of me showing that if you hold a slide on a Glock and press the trigger, it won't hurt your hand. And that's what it's showing. So you can put your thumb on the back plate, press the trigger, it won't blow your thumb off. You can hold the slide and it won't rip your hand off. And I just showed that, and that was a video. So we put a couple of videos up like that, and just as a placeholder. So I could say Active Self-Protection has a YouTube channel, but I'm not a YouTuber. But it had gotten like 6,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we
so,
weren't doing anything there, but it was kind of growing. And actually our oldest uh defensive encounter videos are on Facebook rather than YouTube. There's individual stuff on YouTube like you're talking about that's different than what's on Facebook. But if you want to see the oldest situational videos, those are on YouTube. And those are pretty funny to scroll back through the videos tabs and look at. We've come a long way.
yeah, I mean, I think the information on them is still
Oh
good,
yeah.
but the especially when I first started going on camera, it was very film noir. It was a very
Right.
kind of film noir vibe. I mean,
We
we're
didn't
doing the
have
best we
any
could. Okay,
idea.
don't judge me. I did the
We
best I
didn't have
could.
any idea what we're doing. The defensive stuff, you knew, but like everything we wanted to learn to do on computers or with lighting or with sound, we basically Googled and then tried to figure out from there. Um, Although you should talk about why you started doing kind of the after action reports from your time with the Navy, why doing the breakdowns of the
Oh
videos.
yeah, so when we started doing some of them, at first it was just because Facebook was kind of rewarding that in the algorithm, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Maybe people can learn." And then when we really started after action reporting them is I started integrating this idea that when I was in the Navy and operating nuclear reactors, I mean, the U.S. Navy, here's a fun fact. Here's your fun fact for the day. The U.S. Navy is the only operator of nuclear reactors in the world to never have a nuclear incident. Okay, so we've never had a release of radionuclides in the United States Navy. And one of the safety things, I mean, the nuclear Navy has a broken culture like nobody's business. And anybody who's a nuke, if you're in the comments, if you are a nuclear reactor operator of any kind, MM, EM, ET, ELT, I don't care, you can back me up that the culture of the nuclear Navy is broken. Okay, it's trample the weak, hurdle the dead. But one of the things they did that Hiram Rickover really did right is anytime anybody ever had any kind of mishap, we completely write up everything that happened. We do a full after action report, whether it was equipment failure, whether it was a training failure, whether it was an operational procedures failure, whatever it was. We write up the lessons learned, how we're going to fix it, and then we transmit that to every other reactor in the fleet. And then everybody gets those lessons learned. So we only have to pay the price for it once, but the learning for it goes on. And then the other reactors would receive that. We got to read those lessons learned, sign off that we've read them so we don't make the same mistakes. We don't want to propagate errors. And so that's pretty shortly thereafter, we're like, dude, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be doing after action reports on this. Here's what happened. Here are the lessons learned from it. So go back, and so that we don't propagate errors and we learn best practices from what actually happened to people, good and bad. And so we started doing those, right? And I stand by those old lessons. I mean, again, the production values sucked, but the lesson values were good. And that was okay. So then once YouTube said, hey, you can monetize, and we started posting videos over there, we started taking some of the old Facebook ones and throwing them up there. And then it was pretty quick, like April, May, June, July. I think August was the first time we got, I think, a check for $1,000 on YouTube.
See, it grew pretty quick.
In like August of 16, like it made like $1,000. And I was like, oh my God, like it made $1,000. Are you kidding me? How in the
Right.
world? That was April of 16. And so I think by December, Steph, of that year, I was like, I need somebody to help me answer emails. Basically I need a personal assistant. Would you
Mhm.
would you be willing to like be an employee and not just a volunteer? And I think that was kind of a watershed moment for us.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. And it was around that time, a little bit after that, there still wasn't a lot and it was a challenge because it was growing. So there was more and more and more work, but the money grew a little slow too. So we're having all these real life jobs that we have to do in addition to this job and not a lot of money. But you also started encouraging me about that time to start taking classes and learning so that it seemed that there was some aptitude and gift there to help people. And so I took that encouragement and part of what we did for my pay was get me into some of these classes and I had the ability to train. And that was not anything I'd had the ability. So here I felt like I was just trying to pay you and everyone in the community back for all these lessons that I had learned from them. And now I was really able to contribute. So that was really cool. That was fun. And it really started taking off about that time.
Yeah, early 17. A lot of people may not remember this, but if you were into YouTube in 2017, they had the very first adpocalypse.
Yeah. And
In
then the
2017,
apocalypse hit.
literally, like our ad revenue went down 90% overnight, and it was months of that, like 3 months, 4 months of just brutal nothing. Just as, of course, as I had said, hey, I'll pay you to do these things. And then, of course, we're having phone conversations of like, you take a paycheck this month, and I'll take a paycheck next month.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, and then in 17, towards the end of 17, I was like, okay, it's coming around. We had gotten our first sponsor, our very first corporate sponsor was Mantis.
Yep.
That's how Neil came aboard. So
Yeah.
we had another guy who I had given carte blanche to try to get some sponsorships, and man, that guy could not land a plane to save his life. We just could not get one to go. And so
Yeah. The three of
Neil,
us.
go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say the three of us were kind of at NRA together, and I was kind of watching as he was assessing the different sponsor or different people that we were meeting and opportunities. And I remember calling Neil later that night, who Neil has always been a people person. He's always been regardless of whatever his job was, he's always done some component of sales. And so I was like, I just not sure this guy is what we need. I'm not sure he knows what to do. So I called you and I'm like, this is kind of a weird thing because I'm really biased, obviously, but I feel like we need a salesman. And my husband's a heck of a salesman. And you knew Neil a little bit
Yeah.
at that point, but not as much. So that's kind of when we brought him in to try and
Yep.
he
So
did
in
well.
2017 at NRA's Carry Guard Expo, that was
Yeah.
in August of 17,
Yeah.
is when Neil, so that was the very first NRA Carry Guard Expo. That was the weekend of my son's boot camp graduation
Yep.
in Chicago in Great Lakes.
Yep.
And by a huge confluence of weirdness that should never have happened, he literally got to spend the weekend with us at Carry
Mhm.
Guard Expo after his graduation, which should not have happened. Okay. I don't want to tell that whole story, but he got to. So we ended up driving between Milwaukee and RTC Great Lakes every day, twice,
Mhm.
to get him back and forth so he could get back by curfew and then come and hang out with us. And that was great. And NRA's grand total compensation for me for teaching there was 2 hotel rooms, right? They were like, we'll give you 2 hotel rooms. So I told you, I was like, well, I got us 2 hotel rooms. So if your husband can get away, like if Neil can get away, like we got a hotel room, like, and that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, sure, why not? So
Mhm.
then I remember we're sitting around dinner and I finally told Neil, I was like, Neil, like, can you try to just like get us some sponsors here? I'm trying to figure out a way to make this thing like work
Right.
where it'll support us.
Right.
And he was like, well, I can, walk me around the floor and I will, point out a couple to me and I'll see what I can do.
Mhm.
And literally, okay, so this is our grand business plan. Okay, this is the vast businessman that I am. Okay, I was like, I don't know what compensation should look like, Neil, and I threw out a percentage number to him. I don't want to go through all those things, but I was like, hey, how about we talk about a commission program like this?
Mhm.
And Neil was like, all right, let's try it for a little while and see how it goes. And if that keeps going, then that's great. Now here we are, 8.5 years later, and we're still running on that same napkin.
Yep. Yep.
And it works for you guys, it works for me, everybody's happy, right?
Yep.
And he literally at the show landed us our first sponsor. Like,
Yeah. He's always been really good at that stuff. He always jokes about we're at the Mantis booth and you and I are of course are playing with the Mantis units and we're competing and we're trying to see who can get the higher score on the thing. And that like you say, that's our grand business plan is just having fun and learning and whatever's interesting us. And he said, I just kind of step back and I'm like, oh, that's the guy I need to talk to over there. So that works really well for us at different shows and different things. You and I just kind of have fun and kiss babies and shake hands and he does business.
yeah,
It
I'm
works
great in front
well.
of the camera. I am not a good salesman, that's for sure. And Neil is also great in front of the camera, but he is an incredible salesman because he knows how to put deals together and how to make them win-win for people and how to make the ask. And I suck at that. So that ended up being a great work. That really helped. So then 2018, um, late 2017, now we finally got a little bit of sponsors. Okay, fine. The church was really struggling financially, so I went part-time at church and full-time with ASP, and that was hard but doable. Like, I know you and I talked about that, and we're like, okay, how do we feel about this? I know you need a raise too, but this is what's going on at church, and you're like, no, just do that for now, and then we'll get it going. Then really the SHOT Show 2018 was when we really made the decision and said, I gotta quit. I gotta stop pastoring is the bottom line. I gotta invest in this full time because this is where I feel the presence of God. And you were so I don't like to tell this, to tell on Stephannie too much, but she's a woman of deep faith and a woman of really abiding belief in me. And she's like, I see where God has taken you with this. You do it, and I got your back. And has been a ride or die friend for years and years. And she's like, no, this is where we're going. So you go, and I'm with you. And that, okay, there's a whole bunch of other stuff there. So saying goodbye to that portion of my life, which took up so much of my life, was difficult emotionally. Laying down the title of pastor, when I worked so damn hard to get it, and
Right.
so much invested in it. Um, and so then we stepped into this full time, and that was February 1st of 2018 was when Ask became my full time job.
Mhm.
And then, gosh, when did you officially go full time, Steph?
I feel like it was close to the same time you did. Neil was still working another job until 2020.
Yep. Yep.
But
So I think, I mean, obviously you were doing full time work for like crap part time pay for a long time.
that's a mission, right? Like,
Yeah. I
it's
hate
always
that
been a
though.
mission for it, but I think deep down we all knew, or at least I felt like I knew that it was important work. I think it is important work, and I'm happy to do that. I was getting a lot of benefit from it, learning, training myself things I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. But also I feel like I saw that this would be something that if we could stick in here, it would make money and it would be worth it, especially as it started to get money. It's like, all right, we just need to tighten belts here, make plans, switch paychecks each month until we
Yeah.
can get through this hard time because I don't feel like the hard time's going to be forever. And while we have had hard times come and go, it hasn't been like that again, thankfully.
Yeah. Thank God. Well, and so everybody you should recognize, right? Like, so when I say I went full time, I mean, we were still scrapping. It's not like I was making a bunch of money. Okay. We had to tighten our belts significantly.
Yep.
And then Stephannie worked and we had to work she's the worst in the world at negotiating her own paycheck. She's terrible
We
at it.
should have Neil do it. I don't know why I
I
don't.
know,
He's
right?
good at it.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't
Uh,
afford it if he
and then
negotiated my.
it was 20 end of 19, like October of 19 that I told Neil, I was like, Neil, I need you full time, bro. Like I need you, I need to not have you on the road 50 hours a week doing your sales job. And what's that going to take? And he was like, man, this is how much I make in my full-time job. And so, my family's got to eat. Okay. I was like, I don't think I can do that. I remember this, like we don't have the finances to do that, but I'll meet you halfway and I'll bet you within a couple of months, then with the additional revenue from you working full-time with your commission structure, you'll be able to make that up.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, let me, that was like September. And then he's like, let me talk to my boss. And then October, November, December, I'll kind of transition out and I'll start January of 2020, y'all.
Yeah.
January of 2020, he started full time.
Yeah.
And uh, what a disaster, but also it worked out great. I mean,
Yeah,
thank
I
God.
mean, and that was before anything came up, obviously in January 2020. We all know what happened later in 2020, but in January, we had no idea what was coming. I certainly would not have chosen that year
Yeah.
for him to quit with, hindsight, but it ended up being fine. It's scary, to put down that regular paycheck, even though we were making more probably from ASP. If I went back and looked,
Yeah.
it was still scary to put, as you know, to put down the.
Well, and the funny part, he was doing sales for like commercial products and soap and stuff like that for a lot of hotels
Yeah.
and hospitals and stuff like that. And that business dried up so badly over COVID
Yeah.
that, man, it would have been really hard anyway. So it was fortuitous from that manner.
Yep.
And of course, in 2020, then everybody got locked in their houses and watched YouTube videos. And so
Yeah.
we boomed in 2020. Like 2020 was an incredible year for ASP.
Yep.
I wish we made 2020 money again. Like, dang, that
We
wouldn't
made
that
half of 2020 money again.
yeah, I wish we'd make half of 2020 money again. That'd be amazing. And we were able to do some stuff. We brought on a bunch more staff
Mhm.
and people to handle parts of the business. Because what most people, I think a lot of times, if you're just interacting with us on YouTube, like you don't recognize that the business is bigger than that. So not only do we have the main channel and extra, which is where this video is going to be, but we have a live fire training section of the business that we travel the country and teach classes. We have an instructor certification program. We have a couple of other online training programs that we do that are nevertheless like in-person, remote kind of training stuff. We run a national conference that takes a huge amount of effort.
Yeah. And a
Um,
podcast.
yeah, we have a podcast that is in the top, 0.5% of all podcasts worldwide. And Mike hosts that, and that costs money. If anybody is watching this and you know well how to monetize a podcast, would you please contact me because we need help.
Yeah.
We have literally a top 0.5% worldwide podcast. And I can't figure out how to make a dang dime on the damn thing. Although
Yeah.
I will say we've got an instructor certification program that I think is the best in the nation, and we still ain't figured out how to make any money at that either.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we put a lot into them. And that makes it hard to make money. And it's always going to be a challenge because we don't like to sit and cry and say, YouTube hates gun channels because that's just not true. But the reality is it is more difficult to make money if you have violent content. It's not the guns, it's the violence component. And there's no way around that. Our content is violent. We're doing it from an educational perspective, but there are a lot of sponsors out there. And frankly, I don't think YouTube does a good job from a business perspective dealing with their customers, their businesses, and explaining what violent content is and can mean. They don't want to end up on some beheading video out of the Middle East or something when, I think most of them would be fine being advertisers on our show and doing
Mhm.
those commercials. But because of that, we have a very limited amount of money that we can make from YouTube. So that makes it a real challenge. People with, like a family channel or something like that, where you're out exploiting your kids all the time, they make a lot of money. um,
Bitter,
10,
party of one, your table's
yeah.
ready.
10, 20, 100 times what we're making. So that part's challenging. So we have to have all these other things, so the app comes in to play there and
Yep.
lots of different things, but we work really hard to try to make a living on YouTube so we can provide this content to people, especially as a young mom that couldn't afford training classes or time or anything. Something like this was just an absolute lifesaver for me. And everything else aside, if I had just absorbed that, it would have been enough that I would have been able to come up with a plan to defend myself. And we've seen, this is kind of new, but we've probably seen 5 or 7 people show up in our live fire classes that it is their first live fire class that they have ever taken. But they have watched and followed along the classes in our app. and gone to the range and done those things on their own. And they are in the top quartile in performance. There's zero safety issues with any of them. And some of them are some of the best performers in the class.
Mhm.
And that is all from virtual training. I think I would have argued that that was not possible and that would be better to be at the in-person training. But man, I think we're finding out that there's a lot you can do there. So that is really exciting to have all of these resources available. And as someone that desperately needed them 10, 15 years ago, it really makes me happy to be part of that.
Yeah, so we launched the app in 2023, and late 2023. That was amazing, and it took another huge leap of faith because we're worried always that when you're on someone's rented land, which YouTube is rented land, they can
Yep.
kick you off their land anytime, and I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think we're a net benefit to YouTube, and they recognize that, but. We started the app just in case, and I'm super grateful to everybody who is a subscriber in ASP Unlimited. You're the reason that we're able to pay our bills and the reason that we're able to do the things that we do. So thank you. For those of you who are on YouTube, we're grateful for you too. I can't tell you enough. There's a dozen videos a month that are app exclusive, and including all the live fire classes, the full length training classes, the seminars that we do, the monthly seminars, first watches, we do React ripples, we do all kinds of exclusive content over there that really make it worthwhile. So, man, listen, try it. If it sucks, I'll give you your money back. I promise you. Okay. So you can email me and I will give you your money back. Try it. I think it's super valuable content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, the app, it takes a bunch of time. So that's why we have a bunch of employees, right? And that said, we're still a small company. And, Stephannie is the CEO, yes, but that means chief cook and bottle washer, right? That means putter outer of all the fires. I am the chief content creator. I'm the president of Active Self Protection. And I also do all the video editing at Active Self Protection. So I don't only make like 80% of the content between both channels and the app I'm in. And
Yeah.
so I make all that and I turn around and edit it and upload it and get it centered and all that stuff. So if there's editing problems, if ever you're like, God, John's editor sucks. Okay, I get it. Yep. As the prophet Taylor Swift taught us, it's me. I'm the problem. Okay. I
Editing.
own the problem. All right. It's me.
Editing is challenging to do well because it's so detail oriented.
Yeah.
But what it also is crazy expensive if you have to pay someone else to do it. Crazy expensive. So we're kind of doing the best we can, and I get it. That's a challenge sometimes. But yeah, you work like crazy between content. I mean, we all do between content and the editing and moderating comments, the guys traveling and doing classes, the guys and gals, adding in Jamie and Carrie and Nat, teaching live fire classes around the country. We're just a busy crew, but man, I still feel like I have to put the word work in quotes because it just doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah,
We'll
I love
see.
my work, and still here. We've been posting video content now for 11 years, and I still love it, and we're going to keep doing it. We've leaned in a lot this year to the expert witness side of things. This year has been the year of expert witness. I've already testified in court 3 times.
Mhm.
Well, it'll be 3 times next week when this gets is recorded. So, I've had what 7 cases so far this year, 2 of which have settled. So we still might have 2 more come into trial.
And testifying in court as an expert witness is actually a fairly rare occurrence because most of the time we're just, doing consulting or writing reports or doing things like that. To actually have something go to trial and to be admitted and to testify, that's pretty rare. So the fact that you've done that so many times really puts you in rare air.
Yeah, I don't know very many people who have done it as much as I have. So, I'm not, somebody's like, oh, John, you're the next Masada. You, whoa, time out there, Tiger. I think it's a little early to be making those kinds of comparisons,
Yeah.
but we're definitely, leaning into that. I'm taking a few of those. It's giving me an education. I'm really seeing that as more educational opportunities. I get to educate the court, and then I get educated as well
Yeah.
on the way these things go. So, and Stephannie's doing some of that work. You've worked second chair with me on several cases so far. And man, just that's the kind of stuff. So we're not stopping. All right. If I could get 10 times the number of people to come over to the app, that would be amazing. I'd be super happy and grateful for that. That would make my wife super happy. I'd love it if you would try it over there. But we're gonna keep posting over on YouTube because we value the size of the audience there and that we want to get the education out to as many people as we possibly can. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep teaching. We're going to keep doing our best to educate. So Steph, I know it's an odd job we do, but I just want to publicly say how much I appreciate the work that you're doing. Stephanie and Neil, by the way, are owners of Active Self Protection with me now. They are on the ownership team, so it's not they're not employees anymore. We're all in this crazy mess together. And I'm grateful to have the company with you.
Oh, I am so grateful as well. You are one of those people that sees in everyone that you see what they could be and act as if they already are. And I feel like you are one of those, you say, I had abiding faith in you and your abilities, and that is true. But I think you also saw in me the ability to do something and helped me to really step into what I was meant to be doing right now. I've just feel like there's purpose in what we do and value and mission. I'm so grateful. And again, I feel like that's, everybody always sits, well, what's the next plans for ASP? What's the next plans? I don't know. I mean, as a business, we should probably have some type of 5-year plan, but frankly, my 5-year plan would have looked ridiculous compared to the work God actually did in those 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, we went above and beyond anything I could have ever even asked for. So sometimes I feel like we're just following along, but I'm
I
happy to,
think if there's one thing I think we're going to do this year, what I would love to do, and I've been talking about this, and I'm not saying
what
it's
is
going to
that?
absolutely happen, but we need to do a use of force instructor
Yeah.
program. That has to happen. There's a lot of misinformation being taught out there, and a lot of people aren't teaching it as well as they could. So we're going to probably launch one of those. It'll probably be online delivery, Zoom classes, reading, writing, those kinds of things, so that you're ready to do that in your environment. So if you're interested in that, you can email Steph at activeselfprotection.com, and she can get you information on that. Or you can email me, John at, and I'll uh, I'll do my best to redirect you to Stephanie. Um, and that's going to happen this year. Are we going to do another class on the preparation and practice of an expert witness? Maybe. That's maybe one that we could do. It's in all our spare time. So leaning more into those things are great. I think continuing to do the seminars is where we're really at and doing those well. And so, man, I'm struggling this year to just get enough training hours as a student.
I
So
know.
finding those
We've
hours.
always highly prioritized that. That's always been really important that we're students and we're constantly training. And we are training, but this year it feels odd to only be looking at, 1 or 2 classes. That's kind of unusual for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a goal here, and this is a pathetic goal for me, is to try to get 40 hours this year, get a
Yeah.
full week of training in as a student. And man, I'm struggling to see if I'm going to get that. So
Yeah.
so far I've only had 16 hours. Oof, that's a terrible number, and I know in a lot of professions, like if you get 30 hours every 3 years, you're considered competent. Okay, fine. I try to get 100 hours a year,
Yeah.
uh, and try to do better than that. We'll see how it goes. So anyhow, this is where we came from, where ASP started from, how we got where we are, where we're going. Wanted you to hear from our CEO, Stephanie, from me, your friendly neighborhood content creator, and I'm the president. And so there's that. So Steph, really appreciate the time, and grateful to be working with you.
Oh, thank you, John. Absolutely the same.